different? I'm used to just looking at like a little webcam, you know, as I do my thing. Now I actually have people to look at. So, okay, so this is more geared. I asked Miss Robin, I don't know, I had a couple ideas in my head, and I actually had one full outline written out, but I don't think I'm going to do that. That one would have been more like all-encompassing as far as single ladies, younger girls. But I asked her specifically what kind of moms or what kind of ladies that she had in your guys' church. So I want to ask a question. Okay, so there's things called first-generation Christians, second-generation Christians, third-generation Christians, so on and so forth. My husband is like a fourth or fifth generation Christian. It goes really far back with him. I'm second generation Christian, which means my mom got saved when I was a baby and raised me in a Christian home. So how many do we have here? How many ladies with children do we have that are first generation? You were not raised in a Christian home. Okay, yeah. And then how many do we have that were raised in a Christian home? So second, third generation. All right, so the majority is first generation Christians. And that tends to be the type of lady that comes to listen to my show is first generation Christians. And that just means they don't know where to start with all this stuff. They don't know, I've never been, you know, I wasn't raised in a home where I was taught about God. I wasn't raised in a home where I was disciplined. I wasn't raised in a home where there was structure and rules. So where do I even start? So that's kind of the idea that we came up with, is just kind of a crash course into parenting. So this will not apply to like, you know, the front row here as much, but just put it in your head. Maybe when you get married and you have kids, you can kind of think about this, you know, and this is also for YouTube land for the ladies that listen, that just, I know I've done this topic before, but here's what's going to be different. Okay, now you guys have to work with me on this, okay? Don't be shy. Remember, just pretend like nothing, there's no camera, Miss Robin, nothing's going on. I would love for Miss Robin to come up here too at the end. At the end, I did this at my church and I really liked it, and I wish I would have been recording it because it turned out so good, and I'm like, man, I wish that would have been in Gently Led Sisters. At a bridal shower, I gave some marriage advice that I had learned over 20 some years, and then at the end, I went around the room and I had all the ladies give the best tip, best marriage tip. So what I want you ladies to do at the end, I want you to come up, don't be shy, just pretend we're talking right here. I want you to come up and give the best parenting tip that you would give to someone that maybe is new at this. They have a new baby, they don't know where to begin. I want you to give the best parenting tip to them. Do you think you can do that? I'm seeing some nods. Miss Robin, do you think you could do it? Yes, oh, yay. Okay, so that's at the end. I'm gonna have you all just kind of come up, and I think it's really great having a soundboard of different advice and things that we've all learned. So, okay, so that's, now that we got that established, who is the mom here with the most children? Let's ask that. Who has 5 or more? Who has 6 or more? 7 or more? Who has 8? So do you have 9? 8. You have 8, so we're tied for the most. We're tied for the most kids. Okay, so you should have some nuggets too of parenting advice. Anyone basically with 1 or 2 should have some advice, right? So, okay, so this is geared towards those who haven't been saved long, all right? So there are so many questions that I get, so many emails, and I'm actually going to be going over a little bit. I don't know if you've seen me in action. You probably haven't seen me in action much when it comes to my 2-year-old, because as I'm going to go over in this lesson, I tend to be very private when it comes to training and, you know, taking them aside and dealing with them when they're throwing fits. I tend to be more private when it comes to that, which we'll go over in this, which I think it's good for you to do that for your kids' sake. You know, you don't want to humiliate your children as they grow up. That is very important. You don't want to embarrass them in front of people. And I've seen that, and I can just see the shame on the child's face. We don't ever want to do something to our kids that's going to be such a lasting memory that they're going to have this sense of shame and embarrassment and humiliation. That's not the point of disciplining or training your children. So we're going to go over that too. But there are some verses. Let's go ahead and we're going to flip really quick. There's a bunch of Proverbs verses. I'm sure you guys all have them marked. But we're going to go real quick through those verses because there are biblical principles for child training. So Proverbs 22, I probably should have put these in order. Let's go to Proverbs 10:1 first. I remember this verse quite often because I've seen this through my life. Proverbs 10:1 says, the Proverbs of Solomon, a wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness of his mother. So that's really good. When you're training your child, that's a good verse to remember. Okay, there is a purpose, there is an end in sight. This is why I'm doing this. And then Proverbs 22:6. We're going to go through these quick as fast as I can turn to them. Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Most of us know that. That's one of our parenting verses that we use a lot. Proverbs 29:17 says, correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yea, he shall give delight unto thy soul. And this is one of the main reasons that I start young with my kids, because as you get old, and as you guys have trained kids, those of you that are veteran moms, you see this, Miss Robin, you see this. As you train, as they get to a certain age, we don't have to watch their every move. You know, we're able to let them go play and just relax. We don't have to stand over them, you know, helicopter parenting. We don't have to do that with our children. We're able to just have rest and, you know, relax. And that's why the little ages are so exhausting. And I'm 40 now. And I've got the 2-year-old and the baby, and I'm exhausted all the time from running after them. But my teenagers, wherever they are, I don't know, are they even in here? Oh, there's Abby. I think Chloe's helping with the babies. But my teenagers help out. Oh, she is. She's back there helping with the babies. My teenagers help out, you know, so I don't have to worry so much about them as we go through this. So, and then Proverbs, let's see, what one was that? Proverbs 29:15. Oh, Proverbs 29:15, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother shame. So, and that's one of the things when you've got, if you're a stay-at-home mom in here, or if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're listening, you're very, very blessed because you don't have to leave your children in the care of others, and you can, you know, correct them when they need it. You can train them up. So the ones that oftentimes get overlooked or they fall into bad habits are the ones who have working moms and they're in daycare and they're not being trained. So consider it a blessing if you're a stay-at-home mom for sure. So using these biblical principles, and there are more verses, you guys can look them up. It's really easy to find verses about training up your child, using the rod of reproof, all that stuff. So there are lots of verses about that. But using these principles, why do we use correction? You know, I'm going to go over some of the whys, the wheres. I'm even going to go to how to do it, because I literally have moms that have never spanked their kids. And I know spanking is a very taboo subject, but the Bible still says to spank. So we believe the Bible, right? So we're going to do the Bible. It's not outlawed in the United States. You know, obviously, I am not an advocate of child abuse. I have to throw that out there. Do not abuse your kids. Do not beat your children. There is a way to do it. You know, the Lord made a way that they will be safe and they will not be harmed if you do it the correct way. So obviously we do it because God said so, right? And then also it'll protect them. You're teaching and instilling principles in your kids from a young age that is going to protect them from making wrong decisions later on in their life. And you know, one of the things for me, I believe it shows them that sin has consequences. So all throughout the Bible we see that, you know, God talks about if you do this, this is going to happen. If you do this, this is going to happen. So with our own children, we're showing them, you know, if you lie, this is going to happen. If you disobey, this is going to happen. You know, if you do this, this is going to happen. Because even after they're 18, they're going to have that in their life. If you steal, the law is going to be, you know, the disciplinarian. The law is going to arrest you. The law is going to throw you in jail. So it's very important that they get this in their mind. If they never have consequences for anything they do, they're going to grow up with that mindset. And then when they're 16, 17, 18, that's going to come out. They're not going to think there's any consequences for any behavior. They can live life the way that they want. So that's very important. And then it'll bring you rest, just like that verse that we talked about. Once you start training your kids, you're going to notice improvement. I mean, I've been at it now. She'll be 3 in January, and there's already a vast improvement now from a year ago. Because Kelly is a little spitfire. Kelly's learning, though, because there's things that we do and a process that I follow when I discipline her, which I'll share with you. And I really believe the most important ages, I don't know, Miss Robin, I don't know what you think, but I really believe the most important ages for child training are like 1 to 5. I think that very, very early time is the best time to really instill the, at least getting them to obey you, not throw fits, different things like that. So obviously their heart, that's a long process until they get married and they're out of your house. But as far as the actual establishing boundaries, establishing rules, it's very, very important from about 1 to 5. So here are some of the things that I do, starting pretty young. I don't know if you have noticed, but I've been pretty picky about my kids' sleep. And I know this is a family camp, so this is a little different than normal. But when you're at home and you're in an established routine, I am super picky about sleep. I have found that with families in my church, a lot of the behavioral problems stem from lack of sleep. Kids need lots and lots and lots and lots of sleep. So I do have my kids on a sleep schedule. We have them sleep trained. I say we because Abby and Chloe helped me out in this area because we had to all kind of work together because sometimes they're giving them naps, sometimes I'm giving them naps. So we had them all sleep. I had them perfectly sleep trained before this week. So this has kind of messed it up a little bit, but we'll get back to it when we go home. So they need a lot of sleep. Their brains are growing. And you're thinking, what does that have to do with training your kids? But sleep will help your kids. Sleep will help your kids obey better, listen better. So I'm a big advocate of lots of sleep. Also a schedule, loose schedule. I'm not a super tight scheduled person, but we pretty much do everything about the same every day, don't we? As far as like when we get up, when we do school, when they take naps, when we eat. We kind of follow a loose schedule. I know you do too, Cassie, because you've been like, it's nap time. And you're big with sleep too, because I've seen your posts where you're talking about putting them down for nap, quiet time. And that's another thing too, if you have older kids, it's always good to have a quiet time during the day where even if the little ones are sleeping, they're reading a book. That just gives you peace of mind. It helps you rest. That's super important too. Routine. And then also teaching character and hard work early. So no matter how young your kids are, they can learn work ethic. They can learn how to just keep them with you. We're stay-at-home moms. We have that luxury, and it is a luxury. So, teach them to unload the dishwasher, teach them to sweep, teach them to do all these little things, and that's going to instill work ethic. And I can see with some of you, a lot of you, almost all of you, I've seen all of you helping out, all the girls, even the ones helping with my kids. That helps a lot too, the Guzman girls helping with my kids, and the Boyle, Erica, and all of you girls in there sweeping the kitchen. That shows work ethic. It shows that your parents have instilled that in you. So that's really good. But where do you ladies, this is a given, where do you think most of the training takes place? Exactly. Home is the main training ground. I have seen it, believe it or not. I call it grandstanding parenting. I have seen it in churches where parents, they don't do any training at home, but then they get to church and they're embarrassed because their kid is throwing a temper tantrum all the time and acting up. So they grandstand parent. They grab the kid and, yeah, I'm going to show you, I discipline my kid. I beat my kid, It's called grandstanding parenting. Most of the training should not be taking place in the church. But obviously there are times. We've had almost every morning here, Callie has decided when we were eating breakfast or any meal that she wants to go play in the swings by herself. Almost every single time. And she starts throwing a fit. So what I have done is I take her back to that bathroom. I find that, you like to find a nice little place here. Maybe it's, I don't know where those doors go, but maybe a little room. I take her back there and I explain, no, and you're throwing a fit, so you're getting, and as soon as, I don't know, you guys can notice if I'm doing this, because she'll say, I'm done, Mommy, I'm done, because she knows where we're going. So I explain, you're throwing a fit, and we don't throw fits, we don't get her way. No one's out there. I'm doing this to protect you. I explain all of this, even though she's only 2, because kids are smarter than you think. So I explain everything as I'm doing it, and you're getting spanked now. And so then I spank her, I explain, I did it, and then we don't usually leave until she's done crying. I don't like my kids crying in front of people. We've always been really picky about throwing fits in stores. That's a big no-no in our house. So if they throw a fit in a store, what I do, I leave the store. Abby, do you remember when we were younger And we'd be like at Aldi's, and we'd have like an actual cart full of stuff, and I would have to take you guys out to the van. I'd leave the cart, and I'd actually go out to the van, deal with the problem, and then I'd go back in. And I had one older lady stop me one time, and she was like, I just wanted to tell you, I am so appreciative that you didn't let your child throw a fit in the store. You took your child out and you dealt with it, and then you came back in. And that just encouraged me as a young mom, because I was like in my early 20s, that someone had noticed. You know, she's like, usually they just go through here, they're screaming, and it's an older lady. So she probably is, you know, seeing younger parents kind of drop the ball when it comes to child training. So we've done that many times. But my thing is, I try to keep it as private as possible. I don't want to make a show of it. I don't even want people to know I'm doing it. It's just, for me, especially as they get older, they get very embarrassed, even if you verbally correct them. Don't you, Abby? Yes. If you verbally correct them in front of people, they get very embarrassed. And the goal is not to embarrass them. The goal is to teach them character and them have it in their heart, not be embarrassed. You know, you don't want to shame them. Who here likes to be socially shamed for not wearing a mask? You know, you don't want to socially shame your kids too. So keep it as privately as possible. Never make it be a show. We don't discipline to feed or elevate our own ego or show people how great of a parent we are. We are disciplining to raise kids who fear God and realize that there are consequences for sin. You know, that's the main reason that we're disciplining. So how do we discipline? Just remember that balance is the key, okay? If you're just constantly, don't do that, beat, spank, and you're not ever giving praise, compliments, telling them I love you, you know, giving them affection, they're gonna grow up and they're gonna run away from all that. So you have to balance it with that love and the affection. Lana, we say I love you quite a bit in our house, don't we? We give hugs quite a bit in our house, don't we? Sometimes during the day, I'll just be like, come here, Lana. It's okay. I'll just be like, I love you. Be like, what else do I say to you? You're my favorite
7-year-old.
Yes, I'll say, you're my favorite 7-year-old in the whole wide world. And I can just see her, even if she's having a bad day, she gets that little smile on her face right there. That's the one that she gets. So you got to balance out the correction with the love too. You got to tell them how much you like them or you love them, what they're good at. Allie, what do I always tell you you're good at? What are some things I tell you you're good at?
Creativity and stuff.
At what?
Being creative.
You're very creative. Hone in on their strengths. You don't always want to just hammer their weaknesses. You know, why do you always do this? Why do you always do that? You need to, you know, you're so pretty. Girls need to hear that from their moms. The mom really shapes how a girl sees herself quite a bit. If you've grown up in a home where your mom wasn't like that, you'll know what I'm talking about. And a lot of our self-esteem and self-confidence issues come from how our mom interacted with us. And so I've tried to always, you know, I kind of grew up in a home where that was very sparse. So I've kind of tried, but my dad was really good at it. My dad was always like, you're so beautiful, you're gonna make a great wife, you're gonna make a great mother. And so I've always tried to kind of do that with my own girls, because it does help your self-confidence. And self-confidence isn't a bad thing. You wanna be, and that was the other lesson I was thinking about doing, was just being confident in who God made you, being accepting your personality that God gave you. So that'll be on a Gently Led Sisters here in the next couple of weeks. So you guys will see that one eventually too, since I already wrote it out. But and then also start early. But one of my pet peeves with, and I'm like interacting with my kids here. Abby, what's one of my pet peeves with spanking parents who start? I do not like it when people tell you to spank a baby. That is my pet peeve. I do not like that at all. Don't spank babies. Babies pretty much don't even have a concept of yes, no, right, wrong until they're around 1. I would say right around 1. Like, look at Benji over there. He doesn't know. Can you imagine Cassie being like, don't grab that. Oh, bad, you know, and then smacking him? That's horrible. So babies, punishing babies is my trigger thing. I don't like that at all. Around 1 is where they kind of start learning. Hannah's getting there. She's almost there. And she's learning no. So be like, no, don't touch it. And she'll look at it and she'll go, bop. bop. That's her thing, bop, bop. She'll do that. And so, and then if she does try to reach for something, we say no, we'll just kind of tap her hand. You do age-appropriate discipline. You don't need to bring out a paddle for a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, you know. With Callie, when we're places, I know a lot of people don't believe in using your hand, but I use my hand. Just a small stick, something like that, you know, age-appropriate discipline. You only need a couple little stings will do it, and they'll learn very quickly. And it's in your voice, you know, if you're just like, no, Johnny, you know, they're not gonna get that. So what I like to do is that even when I have little kids, I like to get down on their level. So I don't, even when I'm interacting with your guys' kids, I like to get down on their level. I like to talk to them, you know, otherwise they're just like this. So I've noticed kids respond better when you get down to their level and you talk to them, you know, face to face. So I like to get down to their level, I like to explain, and it's just, you don't need to just be like, wow, you know, just wailing them. That's not what discipline is. It's not about how hard or, you know, it's about consistency. And that is another thing I wanted to talk about we'll talk about that at the end. But around 1, babies seem to develop a mind of their own. And so just a quick swat, you know, on their upper thigh is enough. It can show them that fits aren't acceptable. The fit throwing is what I don't like. I don't like the temper tantrums, the fit throwing. So we try to nip that in the bud super, super early. You know, if a fit is thrown, take them calmly somewhere privately. Calmly tell them why they're getting spanked, then give it to them. Explain, you know, we're going to calm down, you know. And then by 5 or 6, I would say fits should be pretty rare. I mean, Maddie is 6, right, Cassie? I think it's safe to say she's probably not throwing fits anymore. I mean, I'm not talking about pouting because she doesn't get something. That's not really a fit. I'm talking about no, screaming, crying, kicking. Do you do that? That's good. She says she doesn't do it. So yeah, by her age, maybe even 3 or 4, most kids have caught on. I've had a couple pretty strong-willed ones. By 5 or 6, I still had to nip it in the bud a little bit, but a few of my kids have been pretty easy. By 3 or 4, they're done. They're done with the fit throwing. So, you know, they have to learn that they don't get everything they want. As adults, we don't get everything I want. So as a kid, they need to learn they don't get everything they want. So, if they're still doing it, maybe Maddie has a bad week and she decides to throw a temper tantrum. So Cassie's like, okay, I gotta, you know, nip this in the bud. So I've done before what I call a week of boot camp. And that's pretty much where the entire week I keep that child with me. So I'd be like, Maddie, come here, let's go cook. Okay, Maddie, let's go clean the living room. All right, Maddie, you vacuum while I do this. Okay, so you just keep them at your hip. And then if there's any bad attitudes, she's like, I don't want to vacuum. You know, if she starts to fit, then you discipline her. You know, so it's a way to just discipline immediately. If you see things, do you like me using you as an example? Yeah. It's just a way to just kind of nip things in the bud as soon as they pop up. So when I had lots of little kids, I did this quite often. I don't know if any of my older kids remember this, but I would just keep them with me all the time. So they would do everything with me. But then there's some good points in that too, because then that means even when I go places, so we'd have like a little date. So then it would be, you know, like one-on-one time. And I've noticed by the end of a few days or a week, it's improved drastically. So sometimes them like, you know, throwing fits is just kind of a cry and they need more attention. They need more one-on-one time with mom. So take that into consideration too if they start doing that. But one of my biggest things with discipline, and I'm almost done, and then it's going to be your guys' turn, so keep thinking, pick your battles and consistency. I have seen moms who, they don't want their kid to have a cookie. I don't think it's a big deal. That would not be a battle for me. I'd be like, here's the cookie, go play. They'd go play. So no, you're not getting a cookie. But I want a cookie. So for the next 30 minutes, the kid is screaming and crying, I want a cookie, no. I want a cookie, no. I want a cookie, no. 45 minutes of that as we're all listening to the screaming, I want a cookie, no. I want a cookie, no. Fine, here's the cookie. And then all is well. 45 minutes of listening to your child scream, no cookie, and then you give them the cookie. That's why they do it. That's why they scream for 45 minutes until you give in, because you've given in once. So for me, I pick my battles. A cookie's not worth it. Here's the cookie. Okay, going outside by yourself, playing by yourself, for me that's a battle, which is why every morning we've had the battle. And you know what? This morning she didn't even ask. You know what she did this morning? This is day 3. We are sitting there eating. She finished her food. She saw kids start running out, and she said, Mama, kids are going outside playing. Can I go? So it clicked finally. She realized, I can't go outside by myself, but when there's kids outside playing, I can go. So by day 3, she's learned. Okay, so we only had 2 times where I had to take her back and deal with her. So she's learned. So that for me is a battle. Disobedience is a good battle. There was one story, who was it, Chloe? Dad likes to tell. Yeah, it was bedtime, and we always have this routine where we're getting ready for bed. And they would always go in the boys' room, and then we had the bathroom, and then we had to go through our room to get to their room. So they were in the boys' room praying, and Chloe walked by the bathroom, and she looked in there, and for some reason, she wanted something in the bathroom. I don't know what it was. And she said, I want that. And my husband said, no, it's time for bed. And she said, I want that. And he said, no, we're going to bed. And so she started throwing a fit. And so she threw a fit right there in the hallway. He dealt with it, and she kept saying, I'm not going to bed. I want that. And so it was like over and over and over. He had to explain, you're not getting that. No, no, no. And so finally she gave in. She went to her bed. It was like 30 minutes or something. The next night they did the same thing. They went in there and prayed. She started walking down the hall. She stopped at the bathroom. She looked in. She looked at him, and he was just like, she looked back, and then she said, and then just kept walking to her room. So it was like she learned, okay, yeah, Dad's going to win. You know, this is a battle. I'm not even going to try. So they do. Kids are smart. They learn, but you got to pick your battles, and you got to be consistent. If you say no to the cookie, you got to stick to no to the cookie. If you say no to, whatever it is, you have to stick to it. Don't say no and then give in, because they're going to learn that, and that's why I would definitely pick your battles. And then you win the battle that you pick. Okay, so stick with it. Be consistent. Be calm. You don't need to be a crazy woman. Be calm when you're disciplining, because your kids are going to pick up on your emotion. If you're just like screaming and flinging your hand, and they're gonna feed off of that, and it's not going to be good. So it is exhausting, but it will pay off eventually. Eventually your kids, those of you who have little kids right now, you feel like all you do is discipline, right? But it will pay off eventually, and you're going to have rest, and you're not going to be as tired. And all of us moms with teenagers say amen. It does pay off eventually. So that is what I have. If you guys have any questions that are watching, go ahead, put them in the comments. But now we're going to get some advice from other ladies. So this is my favorite part, because I like hearing advice from other ladies too. So all of you in the back too, Cassie, yes, stop shaking your head no at me. I want to hear your guys' advice. Miss Robin, you want to go first? Yay! Okay, so she's going to give us her advice of some of the best parenting advice she has to give. No pressure.
There's several things, but the first thing that popped into my head was the last thing you went over, choose your battles. But once you say no, you have to stick with it. Like a Sunday morning, your child wants to wear one pair of shoes, you want them to wear another pair of shoes. They want to wear this shirt, this dress, you're like, yeah, I'd rather you wear this dress. Okay, you can wear those shoes. Do you really want to deal with a battle over a pair of shoes on a Sunday morning? No. So you choose your battles, but once you say no, you can't do that, you have to stick with it. Or they're going to scream for 45 minutes until you say yes. So you have to choose your battles. And the second thing that I thought of was, because I have older kids, when they're little, you're going to have those moments like, oh my goodness. Okay, sometimes you're just going to have to put the dirty dishes aside and the dirty house aside, and you're just going to have to play with your kids, and you're just going to have to spend time with them and do what they want to do, because the next thing you know, they're taller than you, and you're going to wish for them to be little again, and you're going to wish for them to sit on your lap, and so you're just going to have to, all right, okay, I'm just going to stop doing what I'm doing and go spend time with my kids, because they need mommy time.
Yeah.
Can't just be, sometimes I'm like clean all the time, I'm just doing, but no, my kids need me too, especially when they're little, so you're going to have to stop what you're doing and spend time with them, and choose your battles was the one thing that I thought of, so.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good advice. All right, next. Just keep going.
Okay, so I'm Brenda Guzman, and I have 8 kids, 6 girls, 2 boys. My oldest is Jonathan. He just turned 15, well, in May. And then my youngest is Graziana, and she's 3. So, like Sister Robin said, there's a lot of advice that really needs to be out there. And I understand a lot of young, not even younger, first-time mothers or even first-time saved moms are coming from a world that they don't, it's a totally different type of discipline. So it's something that I had to learn, but I kind of knew that I didn't want to be like my mom. She was more on the abusive end, but it did help me because it does instill, when you spank your children, it does help. My advice is, if you instill fear, a good fear. People hear fear and they think it's bad, but the Bible does tell us that we should fear the Lord. And so, in a good way, if the children fear us, they will see that when they grow up, they will have that sense of fear for the Lord. And that's what I try to teach my children, is God is real. My biggest fear, and I use the word fear, is that they grow up and they turn away from God. So if I instill to them prayer, no matter how busy we are, we have to take time in the morning to pray, to talk to God, to make him real. Make God real in your home. Read your Bible. I've talked to, I hate to use the word nosy, but I like information. So I'll come up to parents and I'll say, so do you read your Bible? Do your kids read your Bible? It's because I want to know what other people are doing in their homes, because if they're doing something I can benefit from, I want to hear it. So I've noticed that many parents, even Christian moms, even people maybe in this room, don't read their Bible daily. And that is a no-no. In our house, you read your Bible first, before anything. Why? Because we grow up and we get busy. And if we teach our children that God is on the back burner, oh, I have to attend breakfast, or I have to attend whatever, shower, or whatever it is before God, you're going to grow up. And they're not going to have that, train a child as the way he should go and he shall not depart from it. He's not going to have that training. So he's going to put God back. So in our house, God comes first. And that's the best advice I can give any parent and any human being that is, wants to serve the Lord. Put God first. Make him real in your house and teach them to fear the Lord, because fearing the Lord is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom. And that's what you want your children to have. One thing that really, because Jonathan is so much into science, it scares me. I don't want, when he turns 18, he says, I believe in evolution. I put God on the back burner. I make sure he's prayed up. He's read his Bible, taken notes. Make them take notes. Make them, how do you know anybody if the Word of God is here? I tell them, this is the living Word. You want to know who God is? Open your Bible. You can't say, I know God, and not read his Word. Then you don't know God. You can't wait for the pastor to read it for you, or mom and dad to read it for you. You have to pick up your Bible and get to know who God is and what he expects from each and one of us. This is the best advice that I can give, because when they grow up, when you guys grow up, you're going to make a choice. And you're going to say, you know what? I've heard it in the old IFB churches that we've been to. Oh, I'm so sick of hearing about God. Their heart is not in the right place, because mom and dad didn't get up and make sure this comes first. The Word of God, the true living water. So that's my best advice.
Yeah, another thing too about even just reading the Bible, there's a nice app that you can get on your phone too, where some days when you're really busy, you can just listen while you're getting ready. It's really cool. So for me, it depends on if you're auditory. Some people are visual. I'm a visual, but I also auditory. I can learn too. So, okay, who's next? All right, Ashlyn.
kind of like back up what she was saying about also being very intentional in what you do with your children in every single thing. That's something I really had to hone in with, especially lately, I feel like. Kind of in that boot camp mindset you were hitting on, that's kind of been where we've been at home. Everything we've been doing, especially lately, has been very intentional, very like, okay, we're in the car. What are we going to do? Sawyer, you're going to turn the hymns on for me. He does it without even asking anymore. He knows. He has actually developed a conscience about it, like a conviction. Like, this is what we do in the car. We turn on the music. We listen to the hymns. And then, like, if it's not hymns, if it's a long drive, we hit on a sermon. So we did on the way here. Having those little nuggets of just, like, we're being intentional about this decision, and it's where you're really kind of instilling it in their hearts to where they develop those convictions, I think has helped our family a lot. And then, like, also just kind of hitting on another thing is remembering that what works for your family isn't going to work for everyone else. You and I were talking about this. You have your structure. You have your boundaries. Those stay no matter where you go. Because at the end of the day, we're going to come back home, and if you did wrong, you're going to get disciplined at home. And I always tell my kids, I'm like, listen, if it's at church and you do it, the discipline is going to be twice as bad at home because you did wrong at church. And they know that now. And they don't, I mean, they're not perfect, but they don't play around as much because it's like they don't want that at home. You know, they don't want that double discipline at home. So that has helped a lot because my children are 9, 7, 4, and 1. So sometimes I feel very outnumbered as a mother. So I'm like, all right, we're done. We're done. We're setting these firm boundaries, and I'm like, we're sticking to these. And I'm like, I don't know how I would be able to go to Walmart, to be honest, without it. And it's like, I only have 4. So that's kind of like something that we've really been doing that has been working for my family. And I encourage it because you're only going to have more, Lord willing, and it's like, you got to get going on it when they're, you know, at these fundamental ages where you can still train, because when they get to like 13, it's a lot harder to kind of go back and try and fix some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Good. Yeah, also, I like what she said about what's good for your house, because Brenda might have rules that I don't have, you know, and Ashley might have rules that I don't have, but you do what works for obviously what your husband wants first, right? So what is important to him? To my husband, sleep and the kids not throwing fits in public is important to him. So we focus on those quite a bit. So you gonna come, Cassie? Yes. Don't roll your eyes at me. She's got a naked baby right now.
Yeah, he needs a change. Okay, so I think one thing that I have learned lately that we do struggle with at home, I think is a good advice, is being able to treat all your children the same. Discipline. I don't like stuff like that.
It's okay. It's just us.
But just disciplining them the same, like, you know, not making Susie look bad or worse than Bobby because but they did the same thing, you know, just being able to treat them the same, love them the same.
It's okay.
And then also a big thing for me is, like you said, just sticking to a routine, especially in my house. We are like, I don't want to say I'm a drill sergeant, but when it comes to naps and it comes to schedules, it works best for my family. You know, I want to make sure everything is done and my house is clean and dinner's on the table when my husband gets home so that we can spend as much time as a family together, you know.
That's a priority for him.
Yeah, he wants to be able to not come home and have to pick up after everybody or have to clean, you know, messes out in the yard because the kids just left a mess. But so I think the biggest advice, is just making sure that, you know, you have your standards, but at the same time, it's, you know, like you said, like you're doing what your husband wants you to do first, but then what's good for your home, but then making sure that your children know. So every morning, this is what we're doing. Like, if it's changed, there's something wrong with mom. You know, it's not me. You know, why aren't we eating breakfast at 8? You know, why is mom still in bed? But it's like, you know, you have a structure in your home, so that way that, you know, even as the little kids grow and then they learn and they see the other kids, like, oh, this is what we're to do. But yes, tell them. But that, and then that's just, I think that's the biggest thing a lot of people struggle with, and I see it is, you know, you get on to someone so hard because they didn't listen to you, or they did throw a fit. But then, you know, there's sweet Madeline who can throw a fit too, and it's just like, oh, you know, we'll deal with you later, and then you just move on. Or the parents, another one is, you know, when we get home, you're going to get a spanking for X, Y, and Z, okay? And then you get home, and it's go brush your teeth, let's get in bed, and you forget about it. And the hard thing is with children, you know, 4 and under is when you know, you don't need to tell them, hey, we're going to get a spanking. You need to just go take them, and they need to get corrected for what they did, because they don't understand 3 or 4 hours later when we get home and they're getting a spanking. They're like, what did I do? You know, they don't understand that. They don't remember that. So when they're really little, I think the best thing is just to take care of it on spot. You know, older kids, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's easier to be like, you know, don't talk to me like that, and when we get home, we'll deal with it, you know, and they understand. You can sit them down and be like, do you remember what you said or what you did, and then take care of it. So I think there's a time for, you know, discipline in each area, but I can't stand that when we get home, we're going to spank, and then we just go on and brush our teeth and get to bed, and then the kids are like, I didn't get a spanking, you know, so that's the biggest thing.
Okay. Good job. Good job. She did it. See, no, that's why when they're 2, when they're under 4, that's why I kind of, even if there's a fit going on in public, I take them aside and deal with it, because they will. Kelly would forget by the time we got home. All right. No? Are you the oldest mother in here right now? So we need to get some advice from you. Come on, older women teaching younger women. Let's go. It's biblical.
Since I am the oldest, I think, I would say, so like you've said, you know, discipline your children with love. That's really, and, you know, let them know what you're disciplining them for. And, let's see, but, you know, the good thing about it, so you take care of your children, and you know what, take the time with your children when they're little. Everything else will be there. Your dirty house, your dishes, your yard, you know, everything. Your kids will not be little forever. They grow up, you know, move away or whatever, but I'm gonna cry, but there is a golden end. You get grandchildren. Praise the Lord for grandchildren. Your kids grow up and get married, and you acquire daughter-in-laws and son-in-laws, and but the grandchildren are very precious, and then you have them, and you can spoil them and send them home and let the parents discipline them. No, I'm teasing. You still have to discipline grandchildren too, believe me. But anyway, that's if I could give any one thing, it is love your children as much as you can, and as they're little and as they grow up, and because they will grow up, believe me, they do not stay little. And then, praise the Lord, you will hopefully get grandchildren. Yes. That's the best part. It gets better.
Yes. It's already gotten better for me. No, when I was a younger mom, I was very regimented. This has to get done, and this has to get done. The house has to be perfect. as I've gotten older, my expectations have gone lower with the house, and I'd rather put it with my kids, do stuff with my kids, go somewhere with my kids, you know. So it does help that I have teenagers that help out with the housework now, so they do a lot of that. I'm able to spend more time with my younger kids, which is really nice. So, Lindsay, do you want to say anything?
Too short for this thing.
Stand on the other side so the microphone.
The microphone.
Yep.
Well, I only have 2 kids, and they're number 3's on the way. But for me, this is advice that I had actually heard was, you know, if you see people, especially in church, their kids are acting a certain way, or you see, you know, the result that you like, find out what did they do. Talk to that person. Sometimes I don't like to just go and ask, but that's advice that I heard, and I have to try to listen to that advice myself. And then also, especially because I'm a first-generation Christian, is to give myself grace, because I mess up a lot. And my husband and I already know, thinking back to when our daughter was really little, tons of mistakes that we made that I still feel guilty for. And so just to not show my kids that I think I'm perfect. And I have already apologized to my 3-year-old tons of times. Seriously, I mean, because I mess up all the time. So I'm trying to learn, and like I said, look at, you know, kids that are behaving right, and, you know, what did their parents do. And I'm grateful to be at a church where we have tons of kids, so you can definitely see, you know, how moms deal with their kids. But yeah, giving myself grace, because mom guilt is real from day one. As soon as that baby comes out, you are already feeling guilty for something. So that's my biggest thing, is just, that might not be directly to my child, but just, you know, forgiving myself and just here she comes, letting them know. My son is too little to understand, but letting her know that, you know, mommy's sorry, or I did this and that was wrong, and apologize. And that kind of teaches them that too, that if they mess up, it's okay, and to fix it. You gonna come say hi? This is Emma. Say hi. Hi, Emma. But those are my two big things. All right, come on.
All right, I love that advice. Very, very good, very good. Brother Cameron's wife. I still don't remember your name. Do you know Victoria? No. She's like, I'm not even getting on camera. I'm standing back here behind the camera. All right, we got anyone else? No. Oh, okay, good. Yay, Morgan. I'm learning your name. See, okay, so Victoria. You're very elegant.
So my heart feels like it's about to explode out of my chest right now, but I didn't plan on sharing any advice, but actually going off of kind of what Cassie shared. And I agree with all the consistency and disciplining while they're young and all those things is all advice that I would give to other moms. I do have 3, mine are older. But I would say, you know, going off of what Cassie said, and again, what you said is the main discipline takes place in the home. Who is in the home the majority of the time? You want your house in order, and you want certain things to be done the way your husband likes them, but your husband shouldn't have to come home at the end of the day and be the main disciplinarian. And so going off of what other people said about, you know, oh, you're getting a spanking when we get home. Another thing to keep in mind is you don't want it to always be when dad gets home, you know, he's going to spank you for this, 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 and this. For one, when they're little, they don't understand why dad's coming home. He hasn't been home all day. And the first thing dad has to do is be bad guy and go in and correct. Now, there's a time and place for dad to correct, and obviously dad should stand behind mom and support, and they should have common goals when it comes to rearing the children. But you shouldn't just avoid your responsibility as a mother, you know, to just put it off on dad when dad gets home after working all day. And dad's always the bad guy as soon as he walks in, you know. And if you're having a lot of trouble and you've been disciplining this child all day, but dad be like, this has been the battle, and it's just, you know, one after the next. So I need your help on this. If this child starts doing this, you know, like maybe you can step in. This is what I've been saying. This is what I've been teaching. This is what I've been doing for discipline. And get dad on board with that and be on the same page. But don't make dad the bad guy as soon as he walks in, because as mothers, that is our job. As a stay-at-home mom, fulfilling the role that God has given you, it's our job mainly to raise those children. And although those children need their father and they need discipline from their father, you know, they need love and discipline from both sides. So, you know, don't make dad always be the bad guy. And then the other thing I would add to that is, you know, talk to your children. Let them know, especially first, second generation. You know, I know me and Miss Flo, she needs to get up here because we talk about being, you know, being bad moms all the time, right? We have that mom guilt and we feel like, you know, am I ruining my kids? You know, that's your number one fear. But one of my number one prayers, you know, is that my children will grow up to serve the Lord, that they will still want to be with their parents when they're older, you know, like spend time with us and just be close with us like I feel like we are now, and, you know, keeping your children's hearts. You know, and I think one of the best ways to do that is not be hypocritical and admit when we do mess up. Like Lindsay said, we make mistakes, we make lots of mistakes, you know, and your children, even from a very young age, are very smart, and they recognize that. When mom's saying, hey, you know, I see this behavior I don't like, and this, you don't do this, and I'm correcting you for this, but then mom turns around and displays that same behavior, you know, you're your child's first and best example. And a lot of times, I'm sure you've all been there, you see a child do something that you don't like, and you're like, that was me. You know, and it's true. I mean, in the home, you're the example that they have, and majority of the time, good and bad behaviors, whether you recognize it or not, comes from you. So, you know, be humble enough to recognize, oh, that was bad, but they got it honestly. And work on yourself at the same time as instilling, obviously you want them to be better than you, right? So you're going to instill that discipline. But also just be forward with them. Like, look, I know why you did that, because you've seen mommy do that, and just be honest with them and be upfront with them about that, and they'll see, okay, mom's not trying to be a hypocrite or be, you know, two-faced about it. She's just, we make mistakes. And then at the same time, remember that, you know, give them grace when they're working on a bad habit or whatever, and maybe you're disciplining a lot, but also let them know that, you know, you love them through that, and give them grace because you would want the same for yourself, especially when it comes to those character things when they get older. You know, obviously with little training, it's a lot of what's already been talked about. It's consistency and stuff. But when they get older, you know, it's not just, oh, okay, my job is done. You know, you're constantly working on their hearts. And if you're not doing that, they're just drifting away and drifting away, away. And next thing you know, you wake up and they're gone and they're moved out, but they don't even want to come around or come to church or serve the Lord. And so, you know, I feel like I fail at it every day, but that's one of my prayers, you know, is that I can keep my children's hearts and that I can train them to go and be servants of the Lord, you know, so.
Good job. See? So I think some of you are natural born speakers. Seems that way. Okay, Miss Flo. Yes, come on. And then we're just about wrapping up. I don't know how long you guys are going, so if you guys got anything else, be thinking.
So I was going to say what Lindsay mentioned about saying sorry and making mistakes, because I am that mom who's like, I'll admit, I think I've done it more than once, and I'm not ashamed, you know. But then when I realize it, I'll say sorry and just admit it right away. And sometimes I haven't, because I'm human, you know. I can be prideful, but being a mom, it can humble you, because you don't know what you're doing a lot of times, or you want to know what you're doing, or you don't want anyone telling you what you're doing, you know. So I was going to say just being ready to say sorry and just living life with your kids, you know, being able to, the day-to-day, like you said, being at home is a luxury. So if everything happens at home, the good and the bad, it's okay for them to see that as mom, because when they become mom for themselves, they can look back and say, that was a bad experience, but I remember when mom, even if it was the next day, I came back and I said sorry for it. It took me a while, but at least I did that. So I was gonna say that. And then the second thing is, I'm kind of like you, and Cassie, where you have a regimen and you're kind of, you're ready to discipline. And I am that mom who's helicoptering and making sure, like, I want to make sure I get to you, or I know where you are at that young age, But the balance, I think, is try to have joy in it. I know as they're little and all you're doing is just pour, 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 and you're so exhausted. So I understand when that's like, I need my husband to pour, 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 or I need my friend to call me, I need to get outside, the break, right? At a young age, it's hard sometimes to see the joy, but as they're older, it's like, have that joy in the home. I think that's very important. I like what you said with the girls, where you're telling them, you're my favorite 7-year-old. I'll say that to my kids. I'm like, you're the best Nolan I've ever met. I've never met I'll say that stuff to KK, like, you're my favorite Cadence in all the land. I'll say stuff like that. But to have fun, especially as they get older, and my oldest is going to be 14, and he's going to be a man one day, and so having fun and talking to him, and then like reminding him reminding all the kids, remember the eternal things. When you want to capture their heart, I think the biggest thing is to remind them of eternal things, like eternal life. I'll remind them, hey, you're going to do way better than I did when you're 18 years old and you can serve the Lord and you do it on your own. Think of all the people that God will use you through to get saved, like reminding them of the things that they're reaching for. With my boys, when they're doing schoolwork, I'll remind them, hey, if you can get to 2 o'clock and finish this test, finish this lesson, you're going to create a habit at work where you're going to be a good employee. Or when they fail and, they didn't do good, I'll remind them, you're not going to be a good employee if you're failing in this area. Hit both sides, the good and the bad. But reminding them of eternal things, I think that's really important, that, some things are temporary and there's a prize right at the end. But if, they already have eternal life, or sometimes those temporary things, they're like, the next minute they don't even want it, but if you remind them of what's to come after with the Lord, it's at least for the boys, and I know for the girls too, like, it makes it they're more motivated, I guess. Even for me, having kids, it's there and it's done, right? You have the baby, but then you look at the work until they become an adult. But if I remember the eternal things of, hey, I hope the next generation, I hope, their kids and the next kids, they learn how to live a Christian life. You give them the sight of, what's to come later on. I think that's important to instill, especially when they're older, because then you can talk to them too. You have this conversation and you can hear what they say. At this age, they're more like, they don't really have much to say, but when they get older, I believe you'll have a greater conversation with them too. All right.
Good. Great advice. All right, do we have any more advice? Final call? I don't see any hands. Nope, everyone's like, no, don't raise your hand, don't touch your head, don't scratch your nose. All right, well, good. I think this went good. See, look at all that good advice we got. You guys, I say it's an Illinois thing to say you guys. You guys just means ladies, whatever. You gals had a lot of good advice to offer. So, I don't know. Did you think that helped you at all? For future reference? When you have kids, maybe? You can remember some of this stuff. So, thanks, ladies, for being here.